When I went to the grocery store last night, the gentleman that was checking me out, he was like, how's your day going or whatever? And I was like, great, man. How are you? And he's like, I'm all right. And it's just like, and then also in dealing with some of my clients, like people just don't realize what they're saying and how negative it sounds, you know. And I've been a victim of this too. And I've had people, for better or worse, you know, put the mirror in my face and show me and make me realize, like, oh, I don't even realize that I'm kind of negative right now. You know, I just don't think it's, unless, you know, like you said, no one is above getting checked. Unless someone is checking you on that, just people kind of just wallow in that sort of misery, and it just becomes their common practice, just like eating gluten, and they don't realize like how shitty they feel is because of the bread or pasta that they're eating. They've just been so used to this kind of mindset and this, you know, talk that they have, that they don't even realize that they're being negative or they have a bad attitude.
Hey, man, they're just going through the ebb and flow of life, man. You know, that's what they're doing, and it sucks. And I'm guilty of that as well. Sometimes, like, I'll be sitting on the couch, and I look at the clock, and I'm like, man, it's 2 p.m. But I did nothing for the day, you know, just one of those like real lazy days. And I'm sure everybody could relate to that. But if you think about it, I mean, how many lazy days do you have in your life? If you were to add up all the hours in your lazy day, like, I wonder, I'd be so scared to know how many days, how many, maybe weeks, months, years, you know, that I've spent just fucking off. And when you consider how little we have on this earth, it's kind of upsetting, you know? And I, you know, when you go through the ebb and flow of shit, like, days are just like, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, when I fucked off until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I didn't realize the time. Like, I was just going through the motion, man. I didn't realize that I was in this fuck off state, you know what I mean? I didn't realize I was like wasting my day. I didn't realize I should appreciate the day. And that person's the same way, man. The dude's checking you out at the store. He's ringing you in, and that's it, man. But I just don't think like his day's okay. His day, he's having a day that's better than most people, because most people, again, man, they don't even have a place to live, don't have running water, don't have electricity. So this motherfucker is living like a king, relatively speaking. But he doesn't know that, man. It's all perspective. All perspective. Sometimes you just got to remember, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like...
Go ahead.
I feel like the theme of this conversation is never forget, man. You know? Never forget. Be it the goal, be it that life is temporary. Just never forget, man. Always be aware of everything in the moment.
100% in the moment. And you just touched on one of the things I was going to bring up. You know, one of the most, and you've said a couple very profound things to me in our time as friends, but one of the most impactful things I think you've ever said to me was back in 2011 when you came down for the 20 and 24. And you got out of the car, and we were, you know, checking back in. And one of the things you said, "How are you doing?" And you said, "Better than most." And Jimmy and I, that has stuck with us since that day. And I say it all the time to people because it really is a good reminder that no matter how shitty you think your day might be, or how bummed out you might be about something, a bad relationship or an argument or whatever, at the end of the day, you live in America, you have a roof over your head, you have running water, you have all these things. So yes, really, I am better than most. Even and I've had some females that have picked up on it, and they're like, well, you always say that, you know, you I can tell that there's something wrong when you say better than most. And to my response to that is, well, even if I am having a bad day or I'm feeling a little blue or down, I am better than most. I have income, I have food in my refrigerator, I have shoes on my feet, I have a roof over my head, I have running water, I got coffee today that I paid for. Like, there's so many lists. The gratitude list is so long. So yeah, I mean that better than most comment that you made has stuck with us since 2011.
Hell yeah, man. I'm glad. I'm glad because it fucking stuck with me as well. It's crazy. Listen, man, we're sitting here recording a podcast. Think about everything that needs to be in place, right? Like that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Think of everything that needs to be in place in order for you to be okay, to have the ability to record a podcast. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable. We all have so much, you know. And that's not to say that we shouldn't embrace our lows, because we should. You know, we're human beings. We're not robots. But it's important that we never forget that, man. You know, we should be grateful. We really should be grateful. You know, everything that I have, I'll put. I wish there were a way to objectively assess friendship and family, and because I'm willing to bet that I have the greatest family, I have the greatest friends fucking ever. I'll put it up against anybody, you know. And I'm like, man, there's got to be a way to objectively assess this, because I want to. When somebody says, "Oh, I have the best friends," I want to pull out something that says, "You see this shit? This shit says I have the best friends. I have the best family." You know, I'm so fucking grateful every day that I have the friends and family that I do. I lucked out, man. Despite being a piece of shit when I was younger, I absolutely hit the lottery. I had the best life in the world. Best life in the world, man.
So as Richie said before, you know, in 2011, you kind of gave us that mantra, better than most, and you've always been someone I've looked towards for that PMA, for that mindset. You were the person that really educated me on the Cro-Mags and Bad Brains and, you know, keeping that PMA and having that attitude. And every time I've been around you, you've always had that attitude. But you just said in 2014, stuff kind of got a little dark, kind of lost track of where you were going or what the mission was. When you're starting to lose that in your daily life, how do you draw back to that PMA and keeping that better than most attitude?
Hey, man, listen, at the end of the day, I'll be the first one to admit it. Like, I go through those lows sometimes, man, and it's tough to get out. And even if, like, I'll say smugly, or I'll say crying with a face full of tears, that I'm better than most people, you know? That I'll admit, even in my lowest time, that I'm still better than most people. That no matter what could happen to me as a consequence of whatever it is that I'm going through, I'm still going to be better off than a lot of fucking people out there. But it all depends on what it is I'm going through, and that will determine how, you know, what it takes for me to get back. You know, I was going through some shit I'd rather not talk about last December. We'll talk about it maybe like next time or something. And it was bad, man. You know, it was really bad, and it could have potentially flipped my life, quite literally. And it was really bad to the point where, like, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I lost a lot of weight. It was like really, really stressed out, you know. You know, and even during this time, like, I would say while I was crying, I'm like, fuck, I'm still gonna be better off than most people. You know, but talking myself off of that negative ledge, man, was tough. It's really, really tough. You know, it's really, really tough. And something that I didn't realize until like that 2014 is that, man, like, you don't know what you're capable of doing until you're put in a situation that you kind of have to exercise everything you've ever said. Do you know what I mean? Like, motherfuckers are like, yeah, I got PMA. Well, tell me you got PMA when you're going through some shit, all right? Then I'll believe you. Show me PMA when you're going through some shit. Then we could talk. Like, if you're having a good fucking life and you're like, yeah, I got PMA, everything's going to be great, fuck you. You know? Go in the deep water. And then tell me how much PMA you have. Show me how much PMA you have. And that's something I realized in 2014. And that's something I'm very cognizant of. It's like when I get in a like, as I'm like approaching, you know, the precipice where I'm about to go over into some really dark waters. I kind of like prepare myself. Do you know what I mean? I kind of look at everything that I have that I'm really grateful for. I realize that, again, like, what's the worst thing that could happen? What's the worst thing that could happen? If this happens, can I deal with it? You know, that's something that my father always, like, said. It's like, what's the worst that can happen? Can you deal with that? And that's how I kind of like, I keep as best as possible that, that PMA. It's like, because no matter what, like, I'll be okay. No matter what, I'll be okay. Like, think about it. Like, cut my fucking leg off. I would be so pissed if I lost a leg right now. I'd be devastated. I'm not even kidding. I would be fucking devastated. But will I be okay? 100%. I'll learn how to deal with it. You'll deal with it because you have to deal with it. And as soon as you remember that, it makes things easier. It's not to say that you're never going to experience a low. It's just going to it becomes less undulating, right? The lows aren't so low anymore. The peaks still remain peaks, right? They're still highs. The highs are highs, but the lows aren't as deep anymore. Never forget, man. You'll be okay no matter what, especially if you have good friends and family. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's what helps me, talks me off the ledge.
You're just putting a smile on the Airey Bros right now, just spitting your Uncle Steve knowledge and your truths. What was I gonna say?
Yo, man, living that shit, dude. I'm telling you, life is fun, man. Life's a trip. Life is a fucking trip. And I'm not trying to sound like a hippie or anything, but man, like you always learn more the hard way. At least I do. Everything I've ever learned in my life was the hard way. You could tell me to do something, and this is the right thing to do. But until I fuck up, until I'm just, stuck or having an awful time or I don't understand. And I get it when I have to get it. My whole life is the hard way. And I wouldn't trade that in for anything, man. It's the best.
Yeah, those are the best lessons to learn for sure.
Fuck yeah.
So you've been at the University of Illinois Springfield for a year now, correct?
Correct. And
semester's about to kick off here in a week or two?
Correct.
What courses are you teaching, and what does that workload look like for you?
I am teaching an Introduction to Exercise Science course, which the workload is pretty light, really light actually. Everything's already prepared, the PowerPoints and what have you. I try to make it as fun as possible. It's an introduction course, so a lot of them are going to be generally, uninterested. Right? There's going to be a great deal of disinterest. So the tough part is kind of managing interest there and making it fun and again applicable to their lives and so forth and so on. But the workload is relatively low. And then I teach in physiology of sport and exercise, and that's a doozy. I decided a few weeks ago to flip the classroom. So I'm in the process of recording every lecture, and it's been awful because a lecture will take me about an hour and a half to record the actual lecture, but in its entirety with like fucking up and all this stuff, it takes me like 4 or 5 hours per video. It's disgusting. It's disgusting how like inefficient I am with this. So the prep work is heavy there. Then I'm teaching, in addition to that course, I'm teaching the 2 labs associated with the course, which are going to be, again, a lot of work. But it's cool, man. It's cool. The work, it's a lot of fucking work, man. It really is. And unlike most jobs, well, it's a give and take, isn't it? Right? I don't have a 9 to 5, right? But unlike most jobs, like when I punch the clock, I don't go home and that's it. Like I don't think about work until the next day. Unfortunately, like there is no punching the clock. Like, I'm always on. Like from morning to night, I'm always on. I'm always working. So as soon as I leave campus, I go home and I work. And if I'm on a run, I think about work and what I'm going to do, And again, I have to, sometimes it sucks, man. Sometimes I'm just inundated with work, with emails, and I'm like fucking stressed out. And then I remember, like, first of all, like, how many people have a PhD? How many people could work at a university and, like, have the best job in the world? I have summers off, right? And also, I love this shit. Like, you have to remember, like, you love this shit. I have to remember that. I have to remind myself that I'm absolutely passionate about education, about physiology. And when I do, I'm just like, oh, this shit's easy then. It makes it more fun. Workload.
Do you think that that reminder is just getting too lost in life and caught up in the workload where you kind of have to pull yourself away from it and remind yourself, hey, this is what I put in all that work for?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You again, man, it's always